Once upon a time, nestled in the heart of a dense forest, stood an old decrepit mansion known as Blackwood Manor. The locals whispered tales of unspeakable horrors that lurked within its walls, warning travelers to steer clear of its haunting presence. Yet, despite the warnings, 5 adventurous souls dared to defy the legends and explore the mysteries that lay dormant within. The group consisted of Sarah, a fearless explorer with a penchant for the supernatural; Mark, a skeptic who scoffed at the notion of ghosts; Emily, a thrill-seeker drawn to the allure of the unknown; David, a historian fascinated by the mansion's dark history; and Jacob, a photographer seeking to capture the mansion's eerie beauty. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the forest, the group arrived at Blackwood Manor. The mansion loomed before them, its windows shattered and ivy snaking up its crumbling walls like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. Ignoring the chill that crept up their spines, they entered the mansion, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls like whispers of the past. The air was thick with dust and the scent of decay, and the darkness seemed to swallow them whole as they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors. Their flashlights flickered and dimmed, casting dancing shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. Sarah brushed it off as mere trickery of the light, but a sense of unease settled over the group like a shroud. As they explored further, they stumbled upon a room shrouded in darkness. Mark scoffed at the superstitions that gripped his companions and ventured inside, only to vanish without a trace. Panic seized the group as they searched frantically for their lost companion, but he was nowhere to be found. With trembling hands, they pressed on, determined to uncover the truth behind the mansion's sinister reputation. But with each passing moment, the darkness seemed to grow more oppressive, suffocating them with its malevolent presence. Emily's laughter echoed through the halls, followed by a blood-curdling scream that pierced the silence like a knife. They found her lifeless body sprawled across the floor, her eyes wide with terror, and her throat ripped open as if by unseen claws. The remaining 3, paralyzed with fear, realized too late that they were trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. Shadows writhed and contorted, taking on twisted forms that whispered of forgotten sins and ancient evils that hungered for their souls. David, driven mad by the horrors that surrounded them, raved about curses and sacrifices as he disappeared into the darkness, leaving Sarah and Jacob alone to face the darkness that consumed them. With trembling hands and racing hearts, they made their final stand against the darkness that threatened to engulf them. But as the shadows closed in around them, they realized the true horror of Blackwood Manor, that some secrets are meant to remain buried and some curses are better left undisturbed. And as the last echoes of their screams faded into the night, Blackwood Manor reclaimed its place among the shadows, its secrets buried once more beneath the weight of centuries-old darkness. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and lush forests, there stood an old abandoned house at the edge of town. The locals whispered tales of its dark past, warning children to steer clear of its crumbling facade. Yet, despite the warnings, curiosity often got the better of adventurous souls. One stormy night, a group of teenagers gathered at the town's edge, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of their flashlights. Among them was Lily, a brave and inquisitive girl with a penchant for unraveling mysteries. Her friends, Jack, Emily, and Tyler, followed hesitantly as she led them toward the looming silhouette of the abandoned house. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it a sense of foreboding that sent shivers down their spines. Lightning streaked across the sky, casting eerie shadows that danced along the overgrown path leading to the house. Ignoring the thunderous roar of the storm, Lily pushed open the creaking gate and stepped into the overgrown yard. The house loomed before them, its windows boarded up and its once grand facade now crumbling with decay. As they ventured closer, the air grew heavy with the weight of unseen eyes watching from the darkness. Jack's nerves were on edge, but Lily's determination spurred them onward, deeper into the heart of the abandoned house. Their flashlights pierced the darkness, revealing the remnants of a life long forgotten. Furniture lay overturned, covered in dust and cobwebs, while shadows danced along the walls like specters from the The sense of unease grew stronger, as if the very walls of the house held secrets too terrible to bear. Emily's voice trembled as she whispered tales of the house's dark history, of whispers in the night and figures glimpsed in the shadows. But Lily paid no heed to the warnings, her curiosity driving her ever onward into the heart of the mystery that lay hidden within the abandoned house. And as they crossed the threshold into the darkness beyond, little did they know that they were about to uncover secrets that would change their lives forever. Inside the abandoned house, the air was thick with the scent of decay and the echoes of forgotten whispers. The floorboards creaked beneath their feet, protesting the weight of intruders disturbing their long-held silence. Lily's flashlight darted across the walls, illuminating faded wallpaper peeling away like the layers of a forgotten memory. They ventured deeper into the darkness, their footsteps muffled by the oppressive silence that surrounded them. Each room held its own secrets, each corner shrouded in shadows that seemed to reach out with grasping fingers. Emily clutched Jack's arm tightly, her breath coming in ragged gasps as the weight of the darkness pressed down upon them. Tyler, usually the joker of the group, fell silent, his laughter swallowed by the suffocating atmosphere of the abandoned house. Lily, undeterred by the palpable fear that hung heavy in the air, led them onward, driven by a curiosity that bordered on obsession. She felt as though the answers to the mysteries that plagued the town lay hidden within the crumbling walls of the abandoned house, waiting to be uncovered. But with each passing moment, the sense of unease grew stronger, as if unseen eyes watched their every move from the shadows. Whispers brushed against their ears, faint and indistinct, like the murmurs of ghosts long since departed. With a hesitant push, the door creaked open, revealing a yawning darkness that seemed to swallow the feeble light of their flashlights. The air grew colder, sending a shiver down Lily's spine as she stepped over the threshold, her heart pounding in her chest. The room beyond was cloaked in shadows, the faint outline of furniture looming like specters in the darkness. Cobwebs draped across the corners, weaving a tapestry of neglect and abandonment. As they ventured further into the room, the silence became almost palpable, broken only by the sound of their own ragged breaths. Emily's hand tightened around Jack's arm, her knuckles turning white with fear, while Tyler's gaze darted nervously from shadow to shadow, searching for signs of movement in the darkness. Lily's flashlight swept across the room, illuminating faded photographs lining the walls, faces frozen in time, their eyes staring out with an intensity that sent a chill down her spine. Each image seemed to tell a story, a fragment of the past preserved in black and white. But as her light flickered across the faces, she caught a glimpse of something. A figure lurking in the shadows, its eyes glinting with a malevolent gleam. Her breath caught in her throat as she stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure melted back into the darkness, leaving behind an oppressive silence that hung heavy in the air. Lily's hands trembled as she reached out to grasp Jack's arm, her voice barely a whisper as she spoke. "We need to leave," she said, her words tinged with urgency. "There's something here, something sinister." But before they could heed her warning, a low guttural growl echoed through the darkness, sending a wave of terror crashing over them like a tidal wave. The walls seemed to close in around them, suffocating them with their oppressive presence. And as they turned to flee, they realized with dawning horror that the door had slammed shut behind them, trapping them in the darkness with whatever lurked within the abandoned house. Their screams echoed through the empty halls, lost in the void of the abandoned house's malevolent embrace. And as the darkness closed in around them, they knew that their fate had been sealed from the moment they crossed the threshold into the heart of the unknown. Desperation clawed at their hearts as they searched frantically for an escape, their hands scrabbling against the cold, unforgiving walls of the abandoned house. But every door they found was sealed shut, every window barred against their pleas for freedom. The darkness pressed in around them like a suffocating blanket, its weight bearing down upon their trembling forms. Emily's breath came in ragged gasps, her eyes wide with terror as she clung to Jack's arm with white-knuckled intensity. Lily's mind raced with fear and uncertainty, her thoughts consumed by the realization that they were not alone in the abandoned house. Somewhere in the shadows, something waited, something ancient and malevolent, hungering for their souls. But as they huddled together in the darkness, a sound cut through the silence like a knife. A soft, sinister whisper that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. "You cannot escape," it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "You are ours now, bound to this house for eternity." The word sent a chill down Lily's spine as she felt the weight of the darkness closing in around them, suffocating them with its malevolent embrace. And as they huddled together, powerless against the forces that surrounded them, a figure emerged from the shadows, its eyes burning with a hunger that chilled them to the bone. It moved with an otherworldly grace, its form shifting and contorting with each step until it stood before them, a specter of nightmares made flesh. Its features were twisted and grotesque, its eyes glowing with an unholy light as it reached out with gnarled fingers, beckoning them into the abyss. With a cry of terror, they backed away, their minds reeling with the horror of what they had uncovered. But there was no escape from the darkness that consumed them, no reprieve from the nightmare that had become their reality. And as the darkness closed in around them, swallowing them whole, they knew with a sinking certainty that they would never leave the abandoned house alive, their fates forever bound to the darkness that lurked within its crumbling walls.